Changing course. Welcome from Minnesota Human Services Commissioner Lucinda Jesson.
Hello, I'm DHS Commissioner Lucinda Jesson, and I want to welcome you to this Jensen Settlement Agreement training. Thank you so much for your time and attention to this training today.
Purpose and training objective.
You've been asked to participate in this training not only because it is a requirement of the Jensen Settlement Agreement, but more critically, so that you can understand the role each DHS employee plays and has in bringing improvement to the care and treatment of individuals with developmental disabilities and all disabilities in the state of Minnesota.
Jensen et al. Versus Minnesota Department of Human Services et al.
But let me give you some background about how the Jensen settlement came to be. In 2009, a federal class action lawsuit was filed, and the clients, the petitioners in that lawsuit, were people who'd been subjected to seclusion and restraint in our MITO program. MITO stands for Minnesota Extended Treatment Options Program, which is in Cambridge. Now, the lawsuit was based in part upon a critical report filed by the Ombudsman Office for Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities. In 2011, DHS decided, rather than to continue the litigation, we wanted to change course. So rather than a trial, in December 2011, the United States District Court adopted a settlement agreement in this class action case. And that settlement agreement set a new course towards best practices for how people with disabilities are treated.
Comprehensive plan of action.
Several years later, in 2013, as part of that settlement, a comprehensive plan of action was established with input from all of the parties in the court. And it identified specific steps that needed to be taken by DHS and the state of Minnesota in order to comply with the settlement agreement. It also set forth some evaluation criteria, so it could be clear how the department and the state would be evaluated on their compliance. I'm not going to go into all the details here, but I want to explain the three main parts of that comprehensive plan of action. Part one of the plan covered the closure of the MITO program and replacing that Cambridge facility with community services for these clients. Part two of the plan covers the modernization of Rule 40. Now, Rule 40 is the rule that governs the use of aversive and deprivation procedures in licensed facilities that serve people with developmental disabilities. And as part of the settlement, we agreed to rewrite Rule 40 and, more importantly, move away from the use of restraints and seclusion in the care of people with disabilities. I want to thank so much the members of the Rule 40 Advisory Committee. They met monthly from January 2012 till February 2013 to study, review, and advise the department on how to change Rule 40 so it reflects current best practices. Now, Part 3 of the Comprehensive Plan of Action you've heard a lot about already, and that is the development of an Olmstead Plan, which applies to all of state government and makes sure that we're treating people with disabilities consistent with the United States Supreme Court decision in Olmstead versus LC.
DHS responsibilities.
Now, the first two parts of the Comprehensive Plan of Action are really directed at DHS. We're responsible for them.
DHS compliance obligations.
The third part of the plan, the development of the Olmstead Plan, really applies to the entire state of Minnesota. And I say this because it's important to understand what our obligations are. And when we look at our obligations under the settlement agreement and court orders and federal law, and what's in that comprehensive plan of action, it's important to understand it's not only what we need to do at DHS within our agency. The law requires us also to use our best efforts to require counties and providers also to comply with these new best practices, to comply with the comprehensive plan of action. And we're obligated to use our best efforts to bring about this broader compliance through all the authority we have. That may mean changing contracts or incentives, looking at rules and regulations, our contract and our rate setting in different ways. And this broader both authority and obligation we have is why it's so important that all of our employees understand what this settlement agreement requires us to do. That it's not just about what happens in our direct care and treatment facilities. It's important that every employee in the agency understands what's in the settlement agreement, because we are all obligated to make sure that we bring about not only the compliance, but really that we're able to chart that better course that are going to help ensure that Minnesotans with disabilities have the opportunity to learn, to work, and to live and enjoy life in the most integrated setting possible.
DHS opportunities.
But this is not just a memorization test. Rather, I think of it as an opportunity, as well as a requirement, to make sure that Minnesotans have the opportunity to live those more integrated, better lives.
Charting a new course.
And as we chart that new course, we'll be ensuring that Minnesotans who receive services are treated with respect and dignity. That, after all, has long been the mission of the Department of Human Services.
DHS Respect and Dignity Practices Statement.
On June 20th, 2013, I signed a statement outlining our department's commitment to achieving the goals as we set to change the care and continue the care for individuals with disabilities. It's something called the DHS Respect and Dignity Practices Statement. And it's been posted on our website, sent out in other places and ways, and it details our policy to prohibit procedures that cause pain, whether those are physical or emotional or psychological. And it also says that we will prohibit the use of seclusion restraints for all the programs and services that we certify or license, except in situations where there is an immediate threat of harm. I ask you all to review that statement, to learn from this training, so that we are able to chart a new and better course for Minnesota. Thank you.
Changing course.